Hello again and welcome to another edition of Alive and Cooking. Today's healthy delights in the form of a starter, main course and pudding are tomatoes stuffed with olives, garlic and parsley, pasta vongole, which is good for the libido and sex hormones, and the taste bud tingling oranges and caramel. I'll be talking to our resident GP, Dr. Stephen A. Meale, about stimulating the appetite and weight problems in our food clinic. And my two food files today are that unassuming little fellow, the potato, and what I call the elixir of life, water, still sparkling tap and filtered. But first, the tomatoes. To stuff tomatoes with olives, garlic and parsley, you firstly need to find some very good firm tomatoes. Now these are beef tomatoes, which are perfect for stuffing, but if you're lucky enough, you might be able to get hold of some plum tomatoes, but you'll treat them in exactly the same way. Now, the first thing to do is to actually chop your tomatoes in half, and you just score with a sharp knife, and we're going to sprinkle them with just a little bit of salt. And we're going to pop them bottoms up on a plate for about 1 to 2 hours, as this allows some of the moisture to come out of the tomato. But to save some time, I've already prepared some. Now, once you've left them for the couple of hours, you need to scoop the inside of the tomato out, the flesh, into a bowl. And to that we're going to add some fresh parsley. As you can see, it's a beautiful green colour. You can either use flat leaf parsley or the normal curly leaved. And I'm going to add some black olives to add both a combination of colour and also a depth of flavour. It's really Mediterranean. Now I'm going to mix these just lightly. Now over here we've got some wholemeal bread. I've removed the crusts just to get rid of a little bit of the toughness, and I'm going to make it into a breadcrumb mix. Now to add some flavour, I'm going to rub some garlic over the surface of the bread. I've just sliced the garlic. Just going to rub it a little bit on both sides. Just to take a fresh piece of garlic for the other one. I just want a mild garlic flavour, because it's really the subtle tomato taste that we want to develop. I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil. Now ideally you should leave those to soak until the olive oil is soaked into the bread and it's nice and moist, but just to save some time, I'm going to mix all of this in together. So when your bread is nice and moist, I mix in the olives and tomato. You could do this with a spoon, but I'm going to use my fingers. And you just basically knead the tomato flesh in with the breadcrumbs. See, it's a little bit hard to do now that I really haven't left my bread for long enough, but it's an excellent way of getting some fibre in, because you've got the wholemeal bread, which is good to prevent heart disease and other diseases like cancer. Now the last thing you need to do is just to add a little bit of seasoning, because a few of the tomatoes need a little bit of added flavour. So I'm going to add some freshly ground black pepper and a little bit of salt. Now I'm going to place this stuffing, having mixed it a little bit, in the tomatoes. So you've got a lovely combination of colours. what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these in a gratin dish. If you haven't got a gratin dish, you could just pop them in a baking tray. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on the surface of the tomato, add a little bit of moisture, and I'm going to pop them under a preheated grill. Now the best thing to do is to actually pop them in the middle of the oven for a couple of minutes, just to let the flesh of the tomato cook. But I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to pop it at the top so that they brown really quickly. So now they should be perfectly done. So I'm just going to bring them out. And to finish off with, I'm just going to grate some fresh Parmesan cheese on top, as this adds just a little bit of added calcium, which is good for strong bones and for good teeth. And it also just enhances the tomato flavour. Now, if you can't get hold of fresh Parmesan, which can be a little bit expensive, you could use the dried. But I just don't think it has such a good flavour. So it's definitely worth splashing out. Yummy. So there you have it, stuffed tomatoes with olives, garlic and parsley. Potatoes contain a lot of carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is needed to produce energy within the body. Potatoes are incredibly filling and they're relatively low in calories. Some people feel that if they're trying to lose weight, they should cut down on the amount of potatoes they eat. But it's much better that you look to the amount of butter or olive oil you put on it before you start cutting potato out. Potatoes are also rich in vitamin C, a strong antioxidant vitamin which helps protect your body against the common cold and more serious problems like heart disease or cancer. Eating potato can actually make your body produce some sleepy hormones. Obviously, this can be quite useful at night time when you're looking for a natural alternative to the sleeping pill, but sometimes you need to watch it at lunchtime if you want to be full of life after the meal. All in all, the potato is a very helpful food to have in your diet. And now it's time to meet our resident GP, Dr. Stephen A. Meale, for our chat about everyday illnesses and how to treat them and help them within a healthy diet. Our topic today is weight and body shape. Stephen, is it common? Do you see a lot of patients with either problems of being overweight or what do you find are the most common problems?
Well, overweight's an enormous problem. About a third of the population of this country are medically overweight. Having said that, people often come into me and complain about their weight, and actually they're not dangerously overweight. Yeah. So this whole idea of where they fit in has an awful lot to do with factors, like fashion, what they see in magazines and all that sort of stuff. So what the first thing I would do is actually weigh them and measure them, and then by looking at the two with this body mass index ratio, you can actually tell whether they're within the ideal weight range or they're slightly overweight or dangerously overweight.
And if they're slightly overweight, what do you think is the best way to deal with it? Is it with drugs because there are a lot around? I mean, I see a lot of people coming in that want to take a drug just to help them get down.
Well, everyone's after a quick fix, aren't they? And pill for every ill and all that. No, absolutely not. I mean, certainly with people who are only moderately overweight, it wouldn't come into consideration. And frankly, even with those who are very overweight, I can't think that I've prescribed an appetite suppressant pill in 15 years.
Because they can be dangerous, can't they?
Oh, they can indeed, and of course it doesn't address the issues of why they're overweight in the first place. And I mean, that's where I'd look to someone like you, Jane, to try and educate people about how their body works.
Well, I think if you start off by really teaching them how their appetite mechanism works, because then once you understand about that, then obviously the foods that you eat is one part of it. But I think people fail to realise that there are various different ways within the
Right.
body that you can get signals back to the part of the brain that says
it's
you're
a brain
full.
thing, isn't it?
Yes,
Not a
it is.
stomach thing.
Yeah, because it's at the base of your brain.
Right.
Now, the first place is within your jaw,
Yeah.
so the number of times that your jaw opens and shuts.
So Grandma saying chew everything 100 times.
It's very, very
Yes.
true. So eat slowly. And then the second way is to really stimulate those taste buds with foods that you very much enjoy. So choosing healthier foods that might taste disgusting is futile because you put them in your mouth, you swallow them very quickly, and your brain doesn't acknowledge that you've actually eaten them. So putting tasty foods, concentrating on it.
Yeah.
Because I think a big mistake that people make is to eat whilst they're doing something else, whether it's watching the TV or sort of doing some household chores, so that women that wander around the kitchen just picking up things.
So the brain doesn't just respond to the amount of food, but just all those signals of how many times you chew it and what it tastes like.
Concentrating and realise about the sensory aspects of eating, because it's taste, temperature, texture, that all makes a big difference. I mean, the way that I frequently get people to think about food is to say, well, it's rather like having sex in front of the TV, eating and doing something else. So think about what you're eating, concentrate. But of course, once you've got the amount of signals back to the brain, you just need to know which sorts of foods to eat.
Yeah.
Now, some people, we've obviously covered people that have problems being overweight, but other people need to stimulate that appetite. What do you think is the best way to do that?
Well, again, it's a question of looking at why the appetite has gone and what sort of physical or possibly psychological causes there might be for that. I mean, in terms of actual substances, I don't believe tablets have much of a place. Well, yes, indeed, an aperitif. I mean, that's what an aperitif means, doesn't it? It means an appetizer.
So we can use some wine.
But it's good being on the food programme. We get to try all these things.
Thank you, Stephen. Welcome back, and now on to the main course, pasta vongole. Now, the most important thing when you're making pasta vongole is you get hold of some very good clams. Now, here we've got some incredibly fresh ones. I ordered them from the fishmonger. You can be lucky if you go into supermarkets and find them, but if you're not, you could always replace them with mussels. Now, I'm just going to mix them with some pasta and some lemon and some parsley, so it's just a very fresh dish. Now, first of all, what we need to do is we need to open the clams up. We need to cook them. Now, to do this, I'm just going to pop a little bit of olive oil into the pan. Now, I've used a very light sunflower oil for this dish. You could use a virgin olive oil, but I think it tends to overpower the subtle flavour of the clams. So it's just sizzling here. Now, I'm just going to chuck the clams into the pan. Now, you need a large pan for this because you've got a lot of clams and you need to shake them every now and then to make sure that the clams don't stick. Now, just whilst those are sizzling, it normally takes about 6 to 8 minutes, I'm going to prepare the garlic. Now, all the best Italian dishes have some garlic in. Now, garlic contains a substance which is very, very good for keeping your arteries clear. So it's good to prevent heart disease. Now, another interesting fact is that it also has antibacterial qualities. So it's good at preventing infections. So if you're one of those people that finds that your winter is ruined by colds, it's always good to have some garlic. So I've just roughly chopped this. Now, I know my clams are going to be done. So what you need to do, yes, they're beautifully open, as you can see. The majority of them have really opened, but what you need to be very careful is that you never eat any of the ones that haven't opened, because that means that they might just be a little bit dead. And that means that they could contain food poisoning organisms, and obviously we don't want that. Now, I'm going to fry my garlic. Add just a little bit of the oil. Heat that up. Now, that's sizzling. So I'm just going to place the garlic into the pan. And now you just want to lightly brown this garlic. You don't want to burn it. Keep just moving it around the pan so it doesn't stick. As you can see, I don't really need to use a lot of oil, so it's not too high in fat, which makes it very good if you're just watching your weight. Now, what I'm going to do is, that's beautifully golden brown. I'm just going to pop them into the pan. You see it's sizzling. Just need to shake it a little bit. Now I'm just going to add my reserved clam liquid. I'm going to pop the lid on, and then I'm just going to put that to warm whilst I just prepare my spaghetti. Now, here we've got some lovely spaghetti which is partly cooked. Now I use dried pasta. A lot of people think you should use fresh pasta, but a lot of the good Italian chefs say that use the dried pasta and you still get a very, very good al dente taste, because fresh pasta can go a little bit slimy and it's very expensive. So I'm just going to drain the spaghetti here. Making sure all the water comes off. So in my pan with my clams, I'm just going to mix in the spaghetti. Toss it all together. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of lemon juice and some fresh parsley, which really lifts the flavours up. So I've got some freshly chopped flat leaf parsley here, but you could use the curly variety. You can get more in supermarkets. And then just a squeeze of lemon juice. Now, just to bring out the flavour, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper. But you don't need a lot because it's a very, very subtle dish. And then I'm just ready to pop it in my serving dish. Now I've chosen a white serving dish. It's most important when you think about the presentation of your dish. The last thing you want is something that detracts from the colours. As you can see, the clams are absolutely gorgeous. Now I'm just going to garnish it with a little bit of reserved parsley. And there you have it, pasta vongole.
Water is the essence of life. It is needed within the body to allow the food to swell and release the vitamins and minerals. Without enough water, the body cannot glean sufficient nutrients to keep it healthy. The majority of people don't drink enough water. You should really aim for about 2 to 2.5 litres every day. This sounds a lot, but you can break it down into about 12 to 14 glasses. The choice between bottled and tap water is entirely yours. Bottled water should be drunk on the day that it's opened. Far too many people leave it for longer than this, and they don't realise that bacteria can infest the water. I suggest you drink the water continually throughout the day, rather than trying to consume large volumes at one time. There is no nutritional difference between sparkling and still water. The choice is yours.
We're ready for some more cooking now. I'm going to make oranges in caramel. Now, a lot of people know that orange is incredibly rich in vitamin C, which is a strong antioxidant vitamin, which really helps your body prevent heart disease, cancer, and also infections like colds during the winter. But an orange can be a little bit boring, so I'm going to turn it into a delicious dessert. Now, first of all, in order to make the orange easier to work with, I'm just going to chop the ends off. And then for a little bit of garnish, I'm going to peel some of the orange skin. And I'm going to neatly cut it into small strands. So as you can see, I'm just keeping my fingers firmly on the board so I don't chop my fingers off. And we're going to use those for garnish. But I've actually prepared some earlier here. They're ready blanched, which means that I've just put them in a little bit of boiling water for about 30 seconds to just take a little bit of the toughness out. And once you've removed all of your strands, you need to then peel the orange. Now, in order to do this, you need to work your knife very slowly down the orange. So I'm just making sure that I remove the pith, which is the white in the orange, because that's incredibly bitter. Now, I've already got some prepared, so what I'm going to do is to pop this in this lovely dessert dish. Now I'm just piling up these oranges. You could slice them and then secure them with cocktail sticks, but I rather like them if you've got the rustic whole orange look. Now, to make this more exciting as a dessert, I'm going to add some caramel. Now, you might think that adding caramel makes it unhealthy, but in fact you've got sugar there, but the fibre from the orange slows the absorption of the sugar down. So I need to make some caramel. Now, to make caramel, you just dissolve some granulated sugar in water, and then you bring it up to the boil. Now, the most important thing is you use a wooden spoon. Don't use a metal spoon because it actually changes the caramel's consistency. As you can see, it's lovely and runny, and I'm just going to pop a little bit onto the oranges. You can hear it sizzling, it's delicious. Now, with the remainder, I'm going to be a little bit fancy. I'm going to make some shapes in caramel. So I'm going to pour it onto an oiled, grease-proof board. And I'm going to allow that to set. Now, if you have some experience working with caramel, you can actually spin some, which means that you use a fork and you actually whip it over a piece of greaseproof paper. Now, you make very, very fine strands, which I've already done some, because it would take a little bit of time. But as you can see, it's really delicate. Now, to add another extra special touch, I'm going to add some Grand Marnier. Delicious. Now, just to finish, I'm going to add some of my orange peeled strands, and then just pop my spun sugar on top. And just to pick up the orange flavour, if you're using it just as a fancy dessert, I'm just going to add a little sprig of mint. And that's it, a taste bud tingling dessert, oranges and caramel. I hope today's programme has put a bit of zest into your life. So until next time, the best of health to you. Bye.